Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. As always, a reminder that this podcast does not constitute real estate advice, legal advice, broker advice, or advice of any other nature. This is an informative podcast. And if you need advice, please reach out to the correct professional who can help you. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Launch, Grow, Harvest Podcast, Business Growth Coaching with Connie Boona and Roland Kim.
Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Boona.
And I'm Roland Kim.
This is the Launch, Grow, Harvest podcast.
Hi there. Today, I'm excited to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of wealth building. So what is wealth? Wealth is kind of that future concept of, how can I get the reserves, the funds I need in the future for my goals? Mm-hmm. And what are the steps between now and getting there? And so we've always thought of wealth building as kind of four components. So money in minus money out equals your profit. And then you need to invest your profit successfully to create your wealth. Mm-hmm. So there's really, four components to that. One is managing your money out, increasing your money in is number two, then tracking what your net worth is. And when you have profits, to invest that to create wealth. And I really believe that fundamentally the area that everyone can start from and that's most pivotal is managing the money out. Massive, right? Like massive. I know we've talked about that. I think it's something like 80% of millionaires in North America make less than $100,000. Mm-hmm. So certainly the amount of money you make is important in what the amount of wealth you can accumulate if that's your goal. But fundamental to that and critical to that is how you spend your money and how money is going out. Because we're often bleeding by 1,000 cuts.
Totally. And the other side of that coin, I've heard crazy statistics of the amount of people that, for example, have massive lottery winnings and end up in bankruptcy, or have been, successful athletes making huge sums of money, or artists and musicians that have made massive sums of money and then end up bankrupt. Your personal budget and your personal tracking of your money in and money out is so foundational at every single level.
Definitely. And if you're a small business owner, I think a lot of us can fall into the trap of mixing your business budget and your personal budget and not really having clarity or understanding where the money is going.
Yes.
So what's the solution to that? The solution to that is, if you're going to take this serious, is to budget your personal world and your business world separately and track it for a year. Mm-hmm. Go through all your credit card and your bank statements and really understand, how many little subscriptions or different things are trailing you that are charging you money and you're no longer wanting it. You're no longer getting the value out of it. And to that end, have a focus of cutting 15% of your expenses ASAP.
Yes.
It sounds big, but it's totally doable.
So partner, take me back. Let's talk about wealth building at a foundational level. So if you don't come from generational wealth, where wealth is something that you inherit and that has been a foundational part of your life, and there are absolutely listeners out there that have that experience, and we can certainly speak to that at a different time. But for the purpose of this conversation today, I think we're talking about wealth building in the ground up way. Is that right?
100%.
Okay. So I just want to draw out a little bit of a storyboard here. Take us through, if you're comfortable sharing it, partner, your personal experience, like where you started in terms of the first time you started tracking your net worth, for example, to where you might be today, and, how you've implemented some of the four foundational steps of wealth building in your personal life.
Thank you, for sure. So, I'd say about 16, 17 years ago, I didn't qualify for a mortgage. Certainly even 15 years ago, I didn't qualify for a mortgage. I was working in my first kind of really professional job, and I think one of my coaches brought me to the mindset of tracking your net worth. And in my mind, that was like kind of comical because it was a negative net worth. And like, who wants to know what you owe? But it's really simple. He started getting me to every month document, what was in my bank account, all my, so to speak, my credit. All the value.
And I just want to pause a minute because something I want to reflect on is that you were at the very beginning stages of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You were in a negative net worth position and you still invested in a coach.
Yeah. I think I was very lucky. I was working in the facility management field at that time, and they provided me with my first laptop, first cell phone, and a coach. So that was awesome.
So this was all part of so you had this coaching opportunity through your through your role, your career.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Totally.
Please take me from there.
And so I was able to document, the small savings I had in my different bank accounts. I had a little bit of RSPs saved up, and then I still had, student loans and some debt to friends and such. And I think my negative net worth at that point might have been like $16,000 or something. And every month thereafter, I was very meticulous and did it every month. I would track, update all the spreadsheets, and I would track the position. And slowly, initially it was like $100 less debt, and a few months later it'd be, compounding, and it'd be a lot more, and eventually got to a place where you broke even. And that was pretty cool. Like, you're starting to feel now like all the hard work that you're putting in, and part of the hard work is saying no. Right.
Okay.
So it's things come up where it's just another $50, it's another $150. But you're choosing to say, no, I'm not going to spend that because my bigger goal of getting out of debt and saving funds towards buying my first apartment was more important than going to that concert or going to that second trip to, Whistler. And I was there 3 weeks ago. And so the cool part in that is, as you develop this habit of tracking, you naturally tend to make less poor decisions of money wasting, and you're establishing smarter decisions as a spending opportunity or an investing opportunity comes up. You're thinking about, do I actually need it? Do I want it? Is it worth the financial cost to my long-term goals of wealth building? And you also tend to start to make a bit more money, and as you have net profits, so to speak, after you pay all your debts, the exciting part with that is you can start to invest it. And so my first investment was into an apartment. I had a small budget, I think it was like less than $200,000 15 years ago. And I also knew I didn't want to pay everything myself. So I said, I need a 2-bedroom. And where can I find a 2-bedroom where I can get a roommate? And so I moved to that part of the city. It wasn't the part of city that I wanted to be in, but it ended up being a really smart decision and continues to be an investment holding I have now. So every time we had net profits, when I was by myself, I would invest it. And later in life, when I found my wife, we would do it together. And 15 years later, you go from a net position to, well over $1 million in positive net worth, and several in that, to that effect, if not more. And so that seems like in some ways hard to believe. And in other ways, it's just incremental steps. It's kind of like, how do you eat an elephant one bite of it at a time?
I remember my own personal journey around wealth building. It was not a concept that was taught to me, and it was certainly something that felt very, very, very out of my realm. And when I think about it now, it was really just a matter of having some discipline around expenses. The experience, I know for myself, what really changed for me, I really started this journey myself and taking this journey very seriously when I met my wife, and we really started getting serious. We were moving in together, and I was really wanting to. I was already kind of running my real estate business. I owned a property, and I needed to just do a much better job of like following where money was going and tracking. I had up until that point not done any tracking or budgeting at all. And so I hired a coach. I hired a money coach.
Awesome.
It was a fee-for-service sort of person, that consultant that we hired. And it was probably the best, whatever it ended up costing us, $1,500, let's say, that we've ever spent. We still use some of the spreadsheets and the tools and the principles and the conversation pieces that I learned from this coach from many, many years ago, to almost more than 10 years ago now. And it was an eye-opening experience to really start to track where everything was going and create some intentional plans around, building security. For myself personally, when I think about wealth building, I'm thinking about how I can build security for myself, security for my family, and also ensure that I'm meeting my commitments around the ways in which I also want to provide support to organizations locally, internationally, direct contributions and mutual aid to people in my direct community. All of those things being all part of the wealth building conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, over the years that has evolved for you. And initially, you're just worried about paying your rent, and then eventually, you're focused on paying your mortgage. And now, you continue to work really hard and more smartly, perhaps. And now it's like, how can I have an impact on the world around us? And so that is all part of that future wealth goal that you have. And part of it comes from reframing your thinking. Perhaps I would say previous years, there was a big push on, the old Freedom 55, work as hard as you can. And then when you get to 55, hopefully you've saved up enough money that, you retire and kick up your feet and go golf and live life and be happy. Mm-hmm. So a few factors to that. One is it's kind of a fallacy. It's very hard to have a lifetime of savings accumulated and at the age of 55, that's going to carry you forever. So many people are finding that they have to work much longer. Mm. And so, that brings up a second question, and it's almost like a future reframing of what future wealth building is. And that's, what do you want to do with the balance of your life? And yes, you need wealth to pay for things, but what would it look like if you worked longer than you thought, but you only worked on 40% of the job that you love? And so you may not need to save as much money, and you may have a semi-retirement earlier in life, and you continue pouring into your business and into your organization, so you're still making some money that helps offset inflation and the cost rise that always happens. Mm-hmm. And so that's certainly something that I think you need to sit down and really figure out what is your wealth goals. Some other suggestions I would do is as you have investments throughout time, continue to test them. And what that means is not each investment is equal. That doesn't mean that an investment you made in the past was a bad decision. It just means that perhaps better investments are now in your horizon and available to you. And so don't be opposed to selling a certain investment to get into a better vehicle, so to speak. And pay off the right bills. If you still have debt, really focus on paying off the debt. We have clients of ours that we coach in our Launch, Grow, Harvest coaching business where quite literally they have a bulk amount of money that they've put away in their RRSPs, and they're carrying 30, 40,000, if not more, money debt on their credit cards or line of credit. And so it gives them a kind of a sense of security to have savings. Mm-hmm. But when you crunch the numbers, it is such an uphill battle by doing that, because you're guaranteed a double-digit interest cost. And you're not getting that in return. Mm-hmm. But all of that is to say, you also need to figure out what your comfort level is, where you're going to invest your profits once your debt is all paid for, and the path of investment. So, yeah.
One of the things that, just in the spirit of thinking about this at the foundational level of building, one of the ways, and there's so many different books out there, The Wealthy Barber, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of these other concepts. But a lot of the concepts have a common thread, which is the idea to pay yourself first, aka put some money aside for your future self. A convention typically is 10% of what you're bringing in should go to savings. And the way that, the recommendation or a great idea around how you can build out your budget is to ensure that you are building into that plan some savings. So it's not that you're saving what's left over. It's that you're saving first, and you're saving first in all kinds of different areas of your world, and then what's left over is what you can play with. Does that make sense?
It's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you can embrace that degree of discipline, things like, for example, I know that we have this conversation regularly with folks around home ownership, and home ownership feeling like a very far away concept, the idea that it would almost never occur. And I'm more regularly now having conversations with people about, building the plan to help you get there. And no, it might not be the dream location. It might not be the forever home, but it could be the stepping stone to get you to where you're going. Real estate being, in my opinion, probably one of the most intelligent and wisest investments you can make in your life, especially the real estate investment where you might be living in the principal residence, securing and stabilizing your housing security.
Yeah, and in summary, it's avoid the idea that you can do it fast. Wealth building starts with making sure that you've paid off your debt and that you're starting to pay yourself and accumulate, profits towards building wealth. And that is a marathon. That's not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And although we want it really, really fast, we often underestimate what we can get done in a year. And we overestimate what we can get done in a year, and we underestimate what can happen in 5-10 years.
Totally. Friends, thank you so much for listening. And if this is a topic of conversation that is on your mind and you want to have deeper conversations, please reach out to us. We would always welcome a conversation. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.